All right, guys. We are here with Craig Holliday today. He is the writer of Fully Human, Fully Divine, an incredible book. The subtitle on there is Awakening to Our Innate Beauty Through Embracing Our Humanity. And just something that's really close to my heart and my experience. I didn't grow up with, really getting into meditation and stuff like that. However, I had to, at an early age, really embrace my own humanity and really find some solace there and really embrace everything that is in my life that has gotten me to where I am. And it is an amazing truth to be able to see that for what it is, because so often we get outside of ourselves when everything that we need is right here. He does mindfulness based therapy, meditation retreats, and he has been on the show, the YouTube show Buddha at the Gas Pump, a number of times. So, Craig, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Where to start? So, I grew up in the Midwest, and when I was around 18 years old, some friends invited me to basically just to drive out west with them, and so I just hopped in the car, quit my job, did the whole thing, left my parents in tears, and basically never looked back. And so I went out to Colorado, and pretty soon, upon arriving there, I met my teacher, David, and had an extraordinary relationship for him where I apprenticed with him for 20 years. And so he was an incredible meditation master and just a being of incredible light. And so through my 20 years of studying with him, we built a retreat center and went on countless retreats with him. And eventually I went to India and studied with some of the great gurus of the current time. And then after being in India for a couple of months, I realized the teacher I had in Colorado was at that same level, and he had given me all this individual attention. And so it was so wonderful to spend so much time with him and to work for him. And he put me through college and through all my hard work. And so it was quite wonderful to have this experience. And then through the years, I also went on to get a master's degree in counseling, counseling psychology. And one of the things that I've done was this work of blending these two worlds of ancient wisdom tradition, spirituality, the path of yoga, the path of Buddhism, the path of Christianity, along with modern psychology. And so that's basically the work I've done in a nutshell. I've studied with some teachers here in the United States. Adyashanti, he's pretty popular, so I spent some time with him, and studied with Tibetan teacher here in the United States, Lama Tsultrim, and spent some time there. So I've gone on tons of retreats and this and that. But after 20 years of study with my teacher, eventually he said, Craig, it's time for you to start offering. And so I started teaching, and I live in this really remote part of the country, and so my mom, she's not so happy that I live so far away, but we get along and visit a lot. But I teach a lot online, and I kind of work with people all over the world. So whether it's people in Asia or people in India, people all over the United States and Europe and Canada, Mexico. And so I have students all over the place. And then a couple times a year, I'll offer retreats here in Durango, Colorado. And I have one coming up in like right outside of Aspen in January. And I'm, teaching California and a lot on the West Coast, especially in the fall. And so yeah, so I have a really busy, incredibly busy teaching career. One of the things I do specialize is when people have dramatic spiritual awakenings, and they feel disoriented in that, and they're struggling with either anxiety or all the energy that's coming forward, or all these emotions that are being purged. people who struggle with Kundalini energy. If anyone hears about my story, I had a really dramatic Kundalini awakening, which which was a little ridiculous, but also very incredible as well. And so, yeah, this is the intersection that I work with, is people who they're on this path, they're committed to the truth, they're committed to deepening into something greater, awakening into something greater, but also who, who didn't grow up in a monastery and have, their human life under perfect control and this and that. I mean, it's one of the great things that's happening right now on planet Earth, is because the evolutionary nature of God is not just waking up in the monastery or in the convent anymore. God is waking up in normal people like you and I. And then, a lot of people, they don't have teachers, they don't have support. And so they, oftentimes, one way or another, God connects us.
We talked a little bit about this at Victory of Light when we met at your table there. But I do and I don't think I mentioned this to you, but I do these long 60, 70-hour endurance events, right?
Yeah.
And it's very, very physically taxing. But what you don't realize is when you go and do those types of things, that there is a very spiritual component to that. You get to a place where you are now pushing through what most people would think is humanly possible, right? Physically, humanly possible. And you're continuing on after 30, 40, 50 hours with no sleep, very little food. And you get to this place where you are just empty. Like
Yes.
Everything, all the stuff, all the bullshit that we carry inside is all gone. It's all wiped away. And there's only one thing that can happen, right? You're at a place where you're now finally receptive to doing some real soul searching and some work. And one of the things I experienced coming back from that is that it was very much like people going into the military and coming out of that and not being able to find their place in the world. And you get to this, I experienced a very real feeling of how can the world be like this? Like, how can I fit back in? Because my mindset has shifted so much that nothing else makes sense to me. Like, I don't have these people around me that for 3 days and nights I depended on for my life, right? If they weren't there, I would have not survived what I went through. And it is challenging to come to a place where now, there's so much information coming all over the place, versus I had one goal, I had to do one thing, and I took care of that, and then we moved on to the next task and the next task. And there's a very spiritual component to that. And what I learned through that is exactly that now it's time for me to give back, right?
Yeah.
I get to help other people now to find those experiences where they can overcome these obstacles and these difficulties and these challenges that they're struggling with, because I've been able to get to this place where I've been able to overcome these things. And it's an amazing circle, that we are the student and we're learning and growing. And then at some point, the teacher or life tells us that, you know what, you've learned enough. It's time for you to go and show others what you've learned. Doesn't mean that we stop learning other things, but there are other people that need that help. They need that guidance to get through some of the things that they've dealt with. And it's an amazing world that we live in, that we have this incredible thing called the internet, that we can connect with anyone across the world seamlessly and have a conversation with them and be able to reach in and touch their lives. It's incredible. Never else,
Yeah.
no other time in the history of the world have we been able to do this. We definitely live in some incredible times, and it is just it is a testament to that people have that access everywhere. They can get it anywhere now. You can go. I've been to Costa Rica a bunch of times. You can go downtown or to the city and go to the internet cafe, get on the internet, and spend 3 or 4 hours in there connecting with whoever. Even in this little rural community, that most of the people are still out gardening and chopping down the weeds outside of their house. It's incredible. the world
Yeah,
that
and
we live in.
it absolutely is. And see, this is the gift of spiritual awakening, is we're waking up to our truth. We're waking up to our God-given gift. And then, of course, it's our responsibility to share this gift, to share it wisely, to share it with humility. I work with a lot of teachers who are coming forward, who are just giving birth, to their teaching career, their teaching platform, or healers, or whoever it is. And we all have these gifts within us. All of us at our heart are absolutely divine. And if there's 7 billion people on the planet, there's probably people, who are above us and in the evolutionary context, and there's people who are below us, evolutionarily speaking. And so, of course, we have something to give, and all of us can be of service. And see, this is what the world needs right now, is the world needs individuals to show up, to push themselves, like you said, beyond what they know to be humanly possible, to step beyond ego, beyond mind, beyond emotion, and to truly get into true connection with the heart and share their beauty and share their divinity in this world. When we do this, the world will actually change. If we just try to, repeat the past, or repeat what our parents did, or repeat what our ancestors did, nothing actually changes. Nothing actually changes. So we always have to be asking, what is my truth? And can I take the next step in my evolution? And the beautiful thing about this is life is always presenting that to us. Life will present us this repetition of habit, so we can do the same kind of thing over and over again. And then life is inviting us also, presenting us also to take a leap into something greater. And oftentimes it's through that doorway of fear that we have to choose. We can choose to step into something greater, so we have to choose to, jump off the cliff into the unknown. Or, we can bow before the fear and just repeat the habit and stay in, the traditional thing that we all know. And so we're at a great time, like you said, to, do we want to explore? Are we willing to open our heart? Are we willing to put down our ego, or forgive, or let go of the past, and actually try something new? Try something new. So it's beautiful what you're describing.
Yeah, I think one of the things that uh, I really found amazing about going through the book and starting to read it is that, unlike a lot of spiritual thought sometimes, and that we need to be very set apart, we need to be very separate from all this stuff. One of the things you really talk about is that whereas we are fully divine, we're also fully human, and we have to own and live in that humanness. We have to accept those things if we're ever really able to find freedom.
Yes.
And that is incredible. Like, when you realize that the things going on, even the hard things, the difficult things that we don't want to happen, are all part of us, right? They're all part of our life. And the sooner we can take that time and see it for what it is, allow it to be what it is, and then move on from that, the more happy we'll be, the more free we'll be, the more joy we'll have in our life, because it just is. There doesn't have to be an explanation for everything. It just is life. And
And that's absolutely true what you're describing, Jeff. I mean, the thing that I really struggled with when I first started the path is I came into this world and I had spent so many previous lifetimes as a monk, and so I came in with a vow of poverty. I came in with this, incredible discipline and being able to meditate for hours and hours. But I had this mantra where I was avoiding life, I was ignoring life, I was trying to live outside of quote unquote the worldly world. But if we really mature along the path, we begin to see that what's happening now is God's not just waking up in the monastery. God is waking up in the world, in our everyday busy lives, when we're changing diapers, when we're going through a divorce, when we're working on our car, when we're, sitting in traffic, whatever it is, God is right here. And through the law of oneness, we begin to discover that this intersection of our humanity and our divinity, this is God. Like, this is truth. This is what life is. There's no separation between, the divine and the human. When you really jump fully in to your humanity, you see that both are this one movement of love and evolution. And so we can step into that, or like I was describing before, we can kind of, space out or tune out or check out or avoid. But if we truly want to wake up, to this great freedom, this great peace, this great beauty which is here, we have to be willing to jump into life, not jump out of life. Now, in the beginning, sometimes it's important, just to jump out of life temporarily, to learn to meditate, to spend some time on retreats, just like with anything in life. Like if you're studying, I know you're like a martial arts guys. So when you're doing martial arts, you need to give your life to it. And you need to jump into it fully. If you just go, once a week, to study, jujitsu, you're only going to get to be so good. And the same thing is true with meditation. If you just do it once a month, yeah, you're not going to progress too far. But if you give your life to it, so you jump fully in, and then you jump fully into life, then you can share this beauty of freedom with the world. You can share it with yourself, with your wife, with your children, with those around you. And it doesn't have to be in some silly proselytizing thing. People just feel it in your presence. The gentleness of your spirit, the openness of your heart, the strength of your divinity, they feel that. They feel that. And that's one of the things that you described, really beautifully when you go on these, these endurance marathons, or, where you're jumping fully in and everyone else is jumping fully in. And then there's this collective power, this collective spirit that comes forward, and it's beautiful.
I had this experience about a couple weeks ago, right around Thanksgiving. We did a run, and we went as a kickboxing studio, and there was about 15 of us, and we ran a 5K together. And a 5K, no big deal, So in my infinite wisdom, I told everybody, well, the last mile, I'm going to do a burpee mile. Anybody that wants to do it with me is more than welcome to do it with me. Yes. I made it about half a mile. Legit, I made a half a mile. I was dying, but and it was rainy and wet, and but I went and I did that. And what I noticed through that is, because I didn't have that brotherhood, right? If I was doing an event where I had no choice and I had to do those things, and they were like, "You're going to do it or else," and I had 30 other people doing it with me, I would have done it without thinking, right?
Yes.
Because I'm in that situation, I would have done it with no question. I would have just kept moving. But then when I'm by myself, to do it is a different dynamic, right? So yes. Without that collective energy coming together, all of a sudden I'm questioning. And I'm wondering, man, do I really need to do this? Other people are telling me, Jeff, you don't have to do it. And so all this stuff is here. And it really, it consistently shows me how much we need one another, right?
Absolutely.
To push through and to go through. We were created to be communal beings, and we need other people to help us move through and to push forward and to get to those places. It's why we need teachers. It's why we need mentors. It's why we need fellow people walking the path with us, because we need their energy. We need their help to make it where we need to go.
Absolutely. The Buddha, he offered this. He called it the three jewels. It was the Buddha, that's the teacher, the Dharma, that's the teachings, and then the Sangha. And so the Sangha is that community that you speak about. It's so supportive, because if we just try to do this on our own, oftentimes our ego will take over, or we'll be connected to the collective unconsciousness, which is just kind of repeating the same stories of the past again and again, telling you to quit or to give up, or to forget about spirituality, or forget about your truth, forget about your dream, just stay with what's safe. But the beautiful thing about the Sangha, the community, is when we set a clear intention that we're walking forward into the light, we're walking forward, we're going to heal, we're going to bring what's true forward, then you have this collective power. You have such an incredible energy that comes forward. And so it's absolutely necessary. And it always touches my heart when I meet with someone, who's like in some obscure place in the world, like Eastern Europe or something. And they, as soon as they get on the Skype call with me, they just start crying. And I'm like, hey, we haven't even started talking yet. Like, what's going on? And they just feel just such a connection. And it just feels so good to them, where they just know there's support here. There's support. And so it's easy to get lost in the world. But also simultaneously, like you're saying, if you use the power of the internet, if you pray to life, if you open your heart and ask for the teacher, ask for the support, ask for the community, and don't lose faith, it will come. It will come. And so we have to be willing at least to ask, at least to walk in that direction. And then as you do so, like you were saying, you feel that collective power. And it feels like you're in this stream of something great is happening. And I was, I never realized how fortunate I was to meet my teacher so young. And I had him, just for 20 years. And so anytime I had a question, I'd ask him. Oftentimes he would just call me on the phone if I was struggling with something and answer my question before I even asked. So he just intuitively knew I was struggling with something. So he was such a master. And it's so helpful to have good parents, to have a good teacher, to have a good partner, to have a good spiritual community. And sometimes we don't have all of those. So we just have one of those. Sometimes that's enough to be our saving grace and to help us, to walk out of the darkness into the light. And so I'm a big fan of support in this world. I'm a big fan of having a community, having friends and mentors and counselors and healers along the way. I used so many. And then, of course, when you use so many, you can open so much deeper because you feel like I'm opening into something good. I'm not just opening into, like walking into the dark forest, by myself. You're like, okay, I'm letting go into God. I'm letting go into grace. I'm letting go into truth, into love. If I let go, I'll be held. I'll be supported. And this is a beautiful thing, is when we have the support of the community, the Sangha, the path is so much easier.
Yeah.
So much easier.
Yeah, it's we talk a lot about, attraction and manifesting things. And I think, there's of course, one of the buzzwords right now is, creating your tribe and, all these things. And they really just speak to that, right? We collect those people around us because of who we are, the energy that we have, the level that we're vibrating at. And those people naturally come into our sphere of influence. And we're able to work with those people. And then we build those people in that community around us. And I think it's, it's great to be able to discern between what is teaching and what is good, because there are lots of people that come into our world that are there to teach us.
Yes.
And they're there to teach us things. Sometimes it's lessons that are not easy. And I think that that's the mistake that some people make, is they feel that once they get to a certain place that everything should be easy. And that's
absolutely not the case. I mean,
exactly.
you can look at the life of Christ and you can see really clearly it was not easy, for that boy, so the further he walked on the path, the more difficult it got. Absolutely. And so, I look at it differently, because this is one of the myths of spiritual awakening or enlightenment, is that we get to a level where nothing touches us. And see, when we have that kind of thinking, that's magical thinking, it's mythical thinking, and it goes back to that root of ego. The ego is always in a state of it's looking for pleasure and avoiding pain. And so if our spirituality is based on that core belief of one day I'll get to a place where I no longer feel pain, it just doesn't sound like the truth. And if you look at the movement of love, love walks into the darkness. Love walks in the direction of a crying child. Love walks towards those in pain, those who are sick or who are ill, whether it's in their mind or in their heart. Or love walks toward pain. And so what we need here on planet Earth is we need true bodhisattvas, individuals who are willing to wake up to their heart and share their love first with themselves, and then, of course, with others. individuals who are willing to get their hands dirty, not people who are simply wanting to escape. If you just want to escape and forget about your brothers and sisters here on planet Earth, does that sound like love? No, that sounds like ego. It just sounds like, oh, I'm looking out for me, number one. Once I met this, it was a Christian preacher, and I asked him how he was doing, and he said, "Oh, one day closer to heaven." And I thought, God, that's a crazy way. That's a crazy perspective. I mean, I understand what he's saying, yeah, but it's like one of the things that Christ taught was heaven is here all about the earth, yet no man seeth. And so can we wake up to this beauty and divinity? Can we wake up to it and share it with the world? Share it with the world. Share it with ourself, our own pain, our own shadow, our own heartache. Can we meet that with love? And as we begin to heal ourselves inside, then it just makes perfect sense to share that same love with others.
Wow. Yeah. So, it is, it's amazing. There are those days where we wake up in the morning and we walk outside and we can see just how incredible everything is. The crisp autumn air, the leaves falling down from the trees, and we notice all the beauty around us. And then there are days that we wake up and the alarm goes off and we're like, shit, not again. I got to do this. And I think the goal is to live more in those days, because there are always going to be things that are going on. There are always challenges that we're facing, is accepting those, but still taking the time to notice all the incredible things that are going on around us. So one of the practices me and my fiance have, and we just started this, is that we have these notebooks, right? These journals that we went out and bought together, and we take those and we write down the little things that we notice. Like maybe I'm sitting there and she's drinking her coffee, and I just noticed the way her hair looks. So I write it down so that I remember those things. And at the end of the week, we sit down and we go through that little list that we've created over the last week, and we talk to each other about it. What are those things that we really find beautiful about our interactions? The way that we talk to our children, the way that she teaches her son, the way that she interacted with this person at the store. And it is really taking those small snapshots of the beauty that's around us that allows us to deepen our relationship with one another, with the people around us. And I think if we don't take time to really look at those things and really mark them down, then we fall prey to, just that everything is so bad, because so many people live there. They don't take that time to stop for a second and really see the beauty that's around them, the amazing synchronicities that happen. Just from me being at Victory of Light, I was going to be there, but I didn't realize I was going to end up being backstage with having access to everything because, I was working at one of the booths there. That happened like a week beforehand. So it was amazing just the synchronicity that happened to allow me to get there the way that I was able to be there. And often we forget about those things, and we don't give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that you're speaking about is heart-based awareness. Heart-based awareness. And so many of us, we live in our mind like you're describing, and in our thinking mind, the thinking mind is literally wired to search the environment for problems, for danger. And because, it's not the olden days where we might have, a mountain lion, actually come eat us, or saber-toothed tiger, the mind doesn't know what to do. And so it looks to our partner and will blame her or judge her, looks to our career and says it's not good enough, or I don't like this, or I don't like the traffic. And so if we're in a psychological program that's literally wired to search for problems, we will do what the Buddha called just suffering. We'll live in a state of suffering. But if we're willing to drop out of our head and into our heart and do what you're describing, where we're actually seeing, I call it seeing through the lens of the heart, You begin to see beauty everywhere. I had this hilariously funny experience the other day where I was, I'm out here in Colorado and I have a 4-year-old, and so I was pulling her around in the sled, and just in half of a second, I was out there walking, and my feet were, went to the point of where my head normally was. My back just, hit the ground, my head hit the ground, and I was laying there in this tremendous pain, just like the body was just in like utter shock. Normally I'm really good at falling because I grew up on a skateboard, but in this moment it just caught me off guard, took the wind out of me. But as I laid there, my face, hearing the beautiful sound of my daughter's voice, feeling the gentle wind on my face. It was absolutely beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And so even, the fact that the body was in tremendous pain, when our heart is opened, you see beauty everywhere. You see it everywhere. And it's a wonderful thing, because too often on the path we live in this either or reality, this dualistic nature of we're either in, a peaceful, blissful state, or we're in, quote unquote, samsara. We're lost in our mind, or we're busy at work, or whatever it is. But like you described, can you be awake enough in your heart that you see this beauty? And there's this wonderful thing that happens. I call it getting over the hump. It's what true spiritual awakening is when you get over that hump of mind, when you're resting in your heart, where that is your normal state of being, and you see beauty, you experience divinity, you experience Satchitananda all the time, all the time. And yes, sometimes life is difficult. You might be in a state of Satchitananda and get in a car accident, or a parent dies, or a child gets sick. But because you're living in this state of freedom, in this state of love, you'll feel more, but it bothers you less.
Yeah.
You feel more, but it bothers you less. And it's a beautiful place to walk in that direction, to know that this is possible. One of the things that my teacher said that reminded me of your story was, I was telling him about this grand spiritual awakening experience I had, and he's like, "That's great, Craig." But then he said, "What's here now?" And I said, "What's here?" I said, "There's quietness, there's spaciousness, there's this vast sense of freedom." He said, "Pay attention to that. Pay attention to that." And so I took his words to heart, and I stayed there. And so in this state of freedom, yeah, you can have a bad day. You can step on your toe. You can fall off your bike. You can fall on the ice. You can, get really sick. But when you notice, when you begin to wake up to the fact that your true nature is love, that your true nature is vast, spacious silence and innocence, an innocence that's never been harmed by life, never been harmed by all the bad days, it's a beautiful thing to be in a state of innocence, and then, yes, have, an old feeling of anger or sadness come forward. Then you actually have the ability to meet it with love, to meet it with kindness, to breathe through it, to see that, even if you temporarily believe it and spin out an ego for, a couple minutes or a couple hours, that it's not the truth. Like you can smile and say, "Okay, I know I'm having a human moment, so I'm going to have a little fit, and I'm going to let it go." But I'm letting go into the truth that I am, to the divinity that's right here. And so this experience of what isness, it's not like some cold, dead thing we do as an accountant where we're looking at the books and we're like, "Yeah, okay, it's clear there's not enough money here." It's not cold and dead. When you wake up to the what isness of life, you see it's alive, it's vibrant, it's that heaven is here, all about the earth. Even when difficulty arises, even when, this evolutionary energy arises, and oftentimes evolutionary energy is painful, it's difficult, it's challenging. Sometimes it comes and slaps you in the face, and you're like, "Oh, God, that hurt." Now I'm responding with ego, but I can take a step back, I can breathe, I can reconnect with my innocence, And I see that I have a choice. I have a choice to respond with love, to let it go, to see it for what it is, or just to respond in a habitual way. Which choice am I going to make?
I remember when I went to Vermont the first time to do one of these events. It was my very first one. And after the first 24 hours, they woke us up in the morning and we had to do 100 burpees there, and they kept restarting us. It was crazy. They were screaming at us. And it was when I realized that somebody could really die at one of these events, because a guy fell over. He started throwing up, and then he started seizing, and he ended up having rhabdomyolysis, and it was attacking his heart. He ended up in the ICU the next day. He came back for the finish, oddly enough. Awesome guy. But besides that, all of that happened, and right at that 24-hour mark, I was ready to quit. And I was at a place where I was completely broken. I didn't think that I could make it through. And I thought, I'm done. I'm finished. And Joe DeSena, who owns Spartan Race, comes up and he says, right at this 24-hour mark, where they had told us previously that if you made it 24 hours, you finished as a 24-hour finisher. Well, we get to 24 hours and he says, if anybody quits from this point off forward, everybody's out. So if you want to leave, leave now. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, what? And I'm, 24 hours with no sleep and extreme amount of work. My brain is not functioning correctly. And I'm like, what? What did he just say? I don't understand. What's happening? And so he says it again, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm going home. And I asked one of the guys, I said, can I leave now? He's like, I don't know. Ask Joe. And I'm like, I'm freaking out. I'm bawling at this point. And a couple of the guys look at me, and they're like, Jeff, you're not going anywhere. You're staying here. You'll be fine. And it was that moment. I stayed. I finished stronger than I started. I got to the end, and at the 60th hour, we're there. And Joe comes up again, and he looks at us, and we're at the finish. And he looks at us, and he says, you guys are late. You don't finish unless you want to do another 10 hours. So you got to do 10 laps up and down this mountain. It's a mile straight up in the the Green Mountains of Vermont. So we're there, and he's telling us, we've got a couple people that have been doing it all day already for you. They've gotten 3 or 4 laps done. So you guys got another 7 to do. You've got an hour or 3 hours to do it in, or whatever, or you guys don't finish. So the exercise there is what are you going to do when things get difficult and things don't seem like they're going your way? Are you going to pick up and continue moving forward, or are you going to sit there and not move anywhere? So immediately, before he was done talking, every single person got up and started moving towards the mountain. And as we're going up the mountain, there's lots of people that are complaining, and they're talking about, geez, I don't know why we have to do this. Why are we going up here? How many times do we have to do this? And I'm listening to all these people. Just 40 hours earlier, I was completely broken and ready to quit. And at this moment, I'm standing there and I'm telling everybody, just go to the top. We're only going to have to do this once. Just go to the top and come back down. He wants to see if we're really committed. Just keep moving. And I'm encouraging people now to shut up and keep going. And we get to the top, and we get up there, and everybody's still complaining. And I look at everybody, and there were a big group up there. And I was like, guys, just stop. Look around. We're at the top of one of the mountains, and you can see 7 other peaks from here. Look around. This is why we're here. This is why we had to go through all of this to get to this moment where we could see the beauty of the vastness of the mountains there. Stop dealing with your own ego at this point, right? Stop dealing with that and look at what's around you. This is why he wanted us up here. And right after that, we came down and we finished. We all finished together.
Yeah.
But it was that moment where we were struggling through all of the ego and all of the things that were going around, because it was hard.
Yeah.
When we got to the top, the reward was so incredible. if you were able to stop, slow yourself down and see it and take
Yeah.
in the beauty. I was one of the people that was fortunate to be able to do that and to be able to stop myself and say, yes, this is incredible. This is what I came here for. And now I'm finally getting it.
Yeah.
So, just it was an incredible moment. And I hope that everyone that was there was able to experience that. But even when we walk the path, right, and we have these moments, these very intense personal moments, not everybody else is in that same space. And that's okay. And I think that's something that I've had to learn over the last several years, is that it's okay for other people to be at their own stage of the journey.
Oh,
It's okay.
absolutely. That's part of being free in this world, is we're free enough, to allow life to be as it is. We're free enough to, to allow everyone to be where they're at their stage of the journey. And so we're not projecting our agenda, our desire, our, ideas or ideology or dogma on anyone else. We're giving life permission to be how it is. And we have to see that. We have to honor that from a place of humility, that everyone is at a unique place on this path. It's so true what you're describing. So true.
Yeah, it's for a long time it was, the ego was there, that I thought that everybody should be able to do these things. And my fiance is amazing. She's wonderful, and is very, very present to remind me that that everybody experiences life in their own way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that they have to go to the side of the mountain and carry big, heavy things up to the top to experience challenge and experience overcoming and transformation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When if you look at your life and see that you're wired in a very physical way, and you have a very physical path, and you're on the path of a spiritual warrior, some people are on the path of the wounded healer. And so they come into this world, they get beat up by life, and their job is to not lose faith in their truth and their gift and their potential to heal. And so they have to work first with healing themselves and not losing faith that they are, that they're not broken, but in a sense that they are continually innocent, and that they can step into this innocence and this beauty. And then from that place, when they learn to work with themselves and heal themselves, then they can share their gift with others. And so we're all at different places on this path, and we all have very different and unique paths. And so many spiritual people I know, their big challenge is money. Like they just struggle with finances because, they've had too many years of poverty consciousness, or they have a thought that God doesn't, that God doesn't live in the world, that God only lives in heaven. And so, we all have to work with whatever our path is. Some people it's despair. It's through the doorway of despair that they discover how strong they are. And so whether they experience that despair, physical challenge like you're describing, or through a divorce or death of a loved one, or a death of many loved ones, or getting losing one's career or child or whatever it is, all of these are doorways. But what is absolutely true, what you're saying, is when we reach deep within, when we call upon something greater, it's there. It's there. And you learn that whether you're on divorce, whether you're the wounded healer, whether you're, learning to manifest, whether you're, trying to climb mountains or doing whatever it is you do. That willingness to reach deep within and to find something greater than our normal human everyday egoic mind. It's there. It's in with all of us. All of us are divine and have this divinity at our core. And the great question is are we looking inward to our goodness, or are we looking inward just to that old complaining ego that's going to repeat the same thing over and over again?
Yeah, I think we talked about this before, but we get to a place, and when we're at that place, there are so many we all resonate differently. So we all have a different story, a different thing that we're working through, a different path. And with those different paths, there are so many other people. And it's why coaching and mentoring and teaching are also helpful, is because there are people that are on the same path with us.
Yes.
Those are the people that we can help, right? Those are the people that we can lift up and say, listen, these are the things that I dealt with that stuff too. Those
Yeah.
are challenges. This is how I dealt with it. See if that resonates with you. And then take that and make your life what it needs to be because of that. There is never a shortage of people. We have this this mindset of lack, right? And lots of coaches get into this place like, oh my God, there's not enough people. I'm not going to do this. And again, it comes to they have issues with mindsets, with money and all that. But ultimately, it comes down to there are plenty of people. There's plenty of money. It's just that we need to understand that it's just there's people that we resonate with. There's people that are going to be in our path that we can serve. And if we come from a place of service and love in that heart space, they'll be there.
Yeah.
And we can help them.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things, and I've worked with this issue with so many individuals, with new coaches, new teachers, new mentors, healers, whatever it is. And oftentimes what I see at the core is they know they have a gift, but they're struggling with unworthiness. And when we struggle with unworthiness, life tends to, not bring us very much money. Just one of the things that life reflects back. If there's something within you where you don't fully love yourself, then God will give us poverty. God will give us lack. And the reason that is God is wanting us to learn to love ourselves fully first before we share. It's not a punishment. It's in no way a punishment. And so we have to learn to love ourselves first fully. And as we do so, then the clients come. Then the clients come. And when we're able to walk through that doorway of lack, and to keep walking forward in our truth, like that's that moment, like what you're describing, where it's like, okay, here's the moment of truth. Are we going to walk up to the top of the mountain, or are we going to give up when we're so close? And so that willingness to say, yes, I have this gift. I'm going to continue to walk forward, sharing this gift and believing in myself, building up my self-esteem, building up my truth, becoming stronger and more confident in my practice, despite no one showing up. It's a very humbling thing. But this is what life is wanting, is for us never to give up. Never to give up on ourselves, never to give up on our truth, to share this divinity in the world. And so many people, they struggle with this very issue. They start a new practice, they read the law of attraction, and they say, okay, if I just think it, it should come automatically into reality. But the core reason it does not is because there's an unworthiness issue, and that needs to be met first with love. When you learn to love yourself and take care of yourself fully, then it's easy to take care of others. And God releases you to share the gift with the world. But if there's something within you that's been ignored, that's been denied, that's been pushed down or repressed, if there's some great shadow there, life wants us to take the time to sit with that first and foremost. And so I think it's really beautiful, what you're describing, that, of course, there's plenty of money, there's plenty of people here on planet Earth. The question is do you love yourself enough to do the healing work, to take care of oneself first, so then you can actually share from a place of truth, not just share from a place of willpower or, some new philosophy you read online or whatever it is. You actually know what it is that you're speaking about, and you know it with confidence in the depth of your being because you never gave up on you. And this is, for so many spiritual people, I hate to say it, they're like wet noodles. They want something great, but, they're not willing to do the work. And it's like anything in this world, you put in the work and beautiful things come. Beautiful things come.
Yeah. That is, that's incredible. I know, myself, I've had some, because of my path, there there has been some very hard teachers that have taught
Yeah.
me lots of things, very physically minded. And I think it is that whatever path you're on, whatever path it is, there are going to be challenges. But
Absolutely.
if we can choose and we can make that conscious choice to accept and embrace those challenges for what they are, then they no longer become difficult necessarily. They're still
Yeah.
going to be challenging, but then they don't become devastating to us, right? They become teaching moments, moments where we can grow, because humans seem to not grow without challenge, right? We never grow when we're on the mountaintop. We're up there and we're looking, and it's great, and it's wonderful, and we're enjoying it, but it's not a time of growth. When we're on the ground and things, where the soil is being tilled, when it's being churned up, all of a sudden we find growth in that area.
Yeah.
And it is accepting those things and saying, okay, this is a moment where I'm supposed to learn something.
Yeah.
Let me take time to be aware enough to see what life is teaching me now. What is it
Yeah.
that I need to see here? What is it that I need to understand? And I don't know if I shared this with you at Victory of Light, but at Victory of Light, I met someone there, David Young, who was talking about the true story of Jesus and his wife Mary Magdalene. Now, I am from a very kind of traditional background. I pastored for 10 years in the church, and I read that, and immediately my reaction was, I'm kind of interested to hear what he has to say, but I don't know how much I buy into that. Well, the universe made it so that we met and we sat and we talked. I ended up watching his booth for him while he did his talk. I learned so much about him and his path and the journey that he's on. And I talked to him just a couple days ago. Just an incredible person. And I told him on Sunday when we were there, I said, you know what? This is how I was feeling coming in here. And I am so thankful that you have been placed in my life to teach me that there are still areas in my life that are not as open as I would like them to be,
Yeah.
and that I need to have greater awareness. And I am so grateful that you were put here just so I could learn that lesson and that I could be taught that. And we hugged each other, we embraced, and it was unique. But a lot of people would pass that by and not allow themselves to really see that for what it is and to learn those lessons, because we're constantly being taught these things. There are constantly signs that are coming up that are showing us the direction that we need to go in, but so often we're not aware enough to really see it for what it is. We're not slowed down enough to really take in all the stuff. We're always moving 70 miles an hour down the highway rather than driving nice and slow and being able to see the road signs.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true what you're describing. When we're humble, we can learn in any moment. We learn in all moments. And so humility is a great doorway in. And so when we have humility, you see that God is not just vast, spacious emptiness and freedom and peace, but God is also this movement of evolution, this movement of growth, this movement of challenge. And things really begin to click on the path when you see that God is also the challenge. In Buddhism they call that Mara. That at the end of the path, Buddha bowed down and he thanked Mara. Mara is like the Buddhist version of the quote unquote devil, but the devil is just an aspect of our mind that challenges us. There's not like there's a real devil or anything silly like that, but it's life challenges us. And when we see that that is God, that is grace, then we begin to wake up to what God truly is, vast, spacious emptiness, and also this giant movement that's pushing us in the direction of greater evolution. And it only comes through challenge. It's one of the things, like there is a sunlit path where we can just sit in meditation and be all kind and gentle and this and that. But most of us, we don't open that way.
Yeah.
We
Well,
open, we sit in meditation for a little bit, we get bored, and so then we go out into life, and then we get beat up by life. We say, okay, I'm going to learn this way. And that's okay too, because that actually grounds this divinity into matter, into the world. And so it's so true what you're describing. We can all learn, and learning is life. Learning is God. Growth is God. It's not just about getting to some, supreme state of nirvana where we don't feel anything anymore. If that was the truth, we'd say, what's the point? Like, what would be the point of coming here and living in this evolutionary world? But when you see God is evolution, you begin to smile at it. You're awake to it. You're aware of what's here and what's speaking to you in this moment. And so it's a radically different spiritual orientation on the path. The other thing that you're describing is there. It's true. There's so many people. They struggle with dogma. They struggle with philosophy. They get rooted in that, or they get rooted in fundamentalism. It's like God is a movement of love, not a movement of dogma, not a movement of fundamentalism. It's not one written word that was written 2,000 years ago and it's written in stone and it's never changing. No, God is ever evolving and changing and growing and is, different from moment to moment. What may be true, yesterday, God may bring you an opposite truth today. And so we need to step into that. When our heart is humble and we're open and we're willing to learn and have, what we call in Zen beginner's mind, then it's easy to learn. It's easy to grow. When we have a Christ-like humility, the path goes quickly. But when we're, rooted in dogma and habit and holding on to things, well, our path can be very long. And then God has to turn up the heat, in the kitchen to kind of cook us out of that old way of believing or old way of thinking.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, we are right about at an hour, right about there. So it has been incredible. You're doing some incredible work up there. I am looking forward to at some point coming back to Colorado. We talked a little bit about this at Victory of Light, that one of my goals is to end up there. Matter of fact, I was working on my own work and creating kind of a vision board last night. And one of the pictures that I put up there, I was looking through some houses in Colorado, and with the mountains in the background, I was like, "Oh, I like that one." So that went up on the vision board. So, just looking at that, super excited to get back up there at some point, because I may or may not have mentioned this. One of my goals is to summit Everest, and I would like to do that within the next 8 years. And I don't know anything about mountaineering or ice climbing.
Yeah, Colorado's a great place to learn. I have all kinds of friends out here, and that is their world. Ice climbing and just running up mountains all day long. We even have, if you're into that ultra running thing, I have some crazy friends, and they do these 100-mile races in the mountains, and it's like they literally have ambulances all over the place for people who are dropping. But it's silly, and so Colorado's the perfect training ground, my friend. Perfect training ground.
For sure. So tell us how to find you, how everybody can find you.
Yeah. So it's real simple. My website is just my name. It's craigholliday.com, and Holiday has 2 L's in it. So, just like it sounds, craigholliday.com. And so I'm online there. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I'm all over social media. I have a great support team. And so they're super helpful in getting the stuff out there and sharing it. And so that's the best way to get a hold of me. And if someone wants to meet with me, I do online sessions. I do retreats. I kind of travel around and teach if I'm in your area. But the quick and easy is just to visit my website and book a session if you want to do one-on-one mentoring. And then there's all kinds of free weekly webcasts that I do on Sunday nights, and tons of YouTube videos and all kinds of free stuff too.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know you're super busy and talking with us. It was great to meet you and your mom there at Victory of Light. That was always nice.
We had fun. That's funny, because my mom, she got me to come back to Cincinnati and do some teaching, and so that was sweet. She's my biggest fan, and so that was nice too. And of course, it's my pleasure to meet with you too, Jeff.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we will definitely schedule some more time because I would love to talk more.
Yeah.
I am excited to get through the rest of the book because it is an incredible work. I'm excited for the next part of that because I
Yeah.
think you mentioned in there that this was just the beginning. So
Yeah, just beginning. Yeah, I have a second one on my computer, and I'm trying to work on editing that. I'm just so busy. And then my editor here, she's just overwhelmed with all the other work that I'm giving her too. And so yeah, we're just busy. And so we'll see. Hopefully in this next year I'll have that one out. And I already have the she's already pushing me to start working on the third one too. And so yeah, they're gonna come. If I just need to clone myself so I can have some more time and and figure out how to get some more work done. So anyways, well thanks so much, Jeff, for having me. It's been my absolute pleasure.
absolutely, thank you, and I will talk to you soon, man.
Yeah.